With the launch of Warhammer 40,000 10th edition, we have a whole bunch of new players who are picking up the game for the first time. We have a whole bunch of players who are returning back after a long-deserved break from Warhammer 40,000. Now, as someone who has solely dedicated their YouTube channel to Space Marines, you know, I do lore videos, I talk about Primarchs, characters and stuff like that. One of the questions I always get asked by people is, how do I get into Space Marines? What chapter should I pick? So in today's video, I want to dedicate it to that. I want to try and give you the best advice possible into picking your chapters, maybe going over some fun lists, maybe some great models to pick up just to really kick you up the behind and get you out there into the Space Marine gaming sphere. So let's jump in and let's get waffling. Now, Space Marines are one, if not the most popular faction when it comes to Warhammer 40,000. Now, what this gives us is plenty of choices to pick from. I'm not lying when I say this. You could literally pick any color scheme known in your mind, and there's probably a Space Marine chapter out there that matches it. You can make your own made chapters if you really want to go that far down the rabbit hole. What I would suggest to people who are firstly picking up Space Marines is just to sit down and read about Space Marines first. That is one of the most beautiful things about this faction. There's so much variety and personality out there. You got to get something that actually matches you as a human being. For example, me, I am a massive fan of the Imperial Fist, of the Sons of Dawn lineage. The reason why I like the Imperial Fist is because I'm a huge fan of castles. I know a lot of people would actually think that is kind of funny, but I love structural stuff like castles and embattlements. I'm a massive fan of void combat as well in Warhammer 40,000, and the Imperial Fist actually matched that through their chapter. They were masters of void combat. They were great builders of fortresses during the Great Crusade, Horus Heresy, and the 41st millennium. So that chapter matches me and my personality, so I represent them on the battlefield of Warhammer 40,000. This is why I keep saying to people that picking your chapter is probably the most important decision you'll ever make as a Space Marine player, because it is going to be times when you're doing your hobbying, you're assembling, you're painting, where you got to sit back and you got to have that like kind of hobby burnout, but the love and the passion you have for that chapter to get them assembled, to get them on the tabletop, to fight against friends, that's going to push you over that hobby hill. It's got to keep you going. I've had it so many times with my Imperial Fist, but just having the love for Dawn, having the love for the gene lineage of Rogel Dawn has literally got me over that hill. I can't recall how many times now, and it's pushed me towards goals, doing like building tanks, building infantry squads, and getting them out on the battlefield. Now, a lot of people do ask me about the meta side of the hobby, and I always give the same answer to this, is that the meta is always like changing. Like the meta is like the purple dragon. You can't catch the dragon. It's constantly changing. It's the worst thing you can do is chase the meta, because if you invest time in a faction that is meta at the moment, I guarantee within a couple of months, years or something like that, that meta will change and you're going to be left with an army that you don't love, is not so good on the tabletop, and they're probably just going to end up in a cabinet or in a box, never seeing the light of day again. But when you have that passion and that pride about the chapter that you've picked, like my Imperial Fists, then you want to put them on display. You want people to see them. You want people to know that you are a Son of Dawn and you've picked the chapter because it's down to you as a person and you want to represent them on the tabletop. Now, I personally think as well, when it comes to painting and assembling Space Marines, they are probably one of the most easiest factions to paint, especially now with some of the tools and paints that you actually have out in the wild, speed paints and stuff, the contrast paints from Games Workshop. You can literally just spray your models with a spray can and put a blob of paint over it, and it like instantly auto shades and stuff like that. Yes, there's a little bit more work into it than just blobbing some paint onto it, but it's really, really easy now to get the base foundations of colors, to get the base foundations of an army on the tabletop with how fast you can literally paint. Now, my stuff is tabletop standard. I've said this so many times. I'll actually try and put some pictures in the background. I like the way I paint, and I think this is another big thing that a lot of people need to realize and learn, is that from day one, you're not going to have the Space Marines that you have from the box art. Like, a lot of people have given up because they see the box art Space Marines and go, well, mine looks nothing like that at all. But these are like the A-game painters. You know, Games Workshop are literally paying their money to sell their products. Just get to a point in your hobby where you're happy with what you're producing and putting on the tabletop. Because let's face it, when you're playing on the tabletop and you're rolling your dice, from a distance, your models look decent. Like, no one's really getting down there with a magnifying glass going, how dare you, you've missed a little bit under his left elbow. No one's noticing that. Well, I'm sure not noticing that anyway, or sure I don't really care about that. As long as you've put some effort into painting your models and putting them on the battlefield, I'm there to roll dice with you until the sun goes down. Now, let's say you've picked your chapter, you decided a paint scheme, you want to go forward, and it's time to buy the models. This is kind of the first hurdle where a lot of people fall at, and they get overwhelmed by what they do because they go out and they buy too much. I always recommend to people to start small and then slowly get into it bit by bit. If you go out and you buy 4 tanks, 5 tactical squads, a number of HQs, fast attacks and stuff like that, you bring it home, you put it on your table, you do one squad and then you look around and you see the other pile and you go, oh my holy emperor, I've got so much to do. I've done it before. I've experienced before. It's one of the most depressive things you can think of in the hobby sphere. You just don't want to do that to yourself. So I always recommend go out, maybe buy 1 HQ and 1 like battle line. You maybe like heavy intercessors, tactical marines, just 2 units. Put them on the tabletop, have a nice fancy high HQ that you can paint, assemble, kit bash, do what you want with it, then add that with another squad and have that squad there. Once that's done, you'll see it painted and you'll go, oh my God, these look amazing. I can't wait to add more. And that's when you go out there and maybe buy, I don't know, another dreadnought. Then you buy a tank or something, maybe a land speed, a fast attack, something just cooler to go on with your army. Just do it bit by bit at the start. And then once you've fully given yourself to Space Marines, then you can go out and just buy it in droves and hordes and stuff and fully give your soul over to the Emperor of Mankind. The great thing about this is that Games Workshop themselves have actually designed boxes for this purpose. They're called combat patrols. Now, the Space Marines actually kind of have a lot of combat patrols because you have the generic Space Marine one, which is about to be changed into Terminators. That's not out yet. I think the only one you can get now is the old Phobos one. But if you want Terminators, probably just wait a couple more months and that one will be out. But they have a Blood Angel one. They have a Dark Angel one. They even have a Death Watch one. Now, even though that these are dedicated to these certain chapters, you don't really have to then paint them as Blood Angels, as Dark Angels, Space Wolves, Death Watch. They do include like more decals and shoulder pads designed for them, but you can still go out and put any chapter symbol on them as you want. All you need is that nice fancy decal sheet, or go online and get some decals from somewhere, and you can make any chapter that you desire. You can make your chapter that you've picked. Just don't think like, okay, if it's a Blood Angel Combat Patrol, I have to paint them as Blood Angel Combat Patrol. Because again, that's what a lot of people keep asking me. Do I have to do them as Blood Angels? And it's not. They're just the generic Space Marine models with a little bit more fancy stuff on their shoulder to announce them as Blood Angels. I think that this is the best place to leave the video. If you have any questions regarding Space Marines further, feel free to post them down in the comment section down below. Send me a message on Discord if you want to. I'll try and do my best to answer said questions. I really respect you for starting your journey as a Space Marine player. This is where your life truly begins, in service of the Emperor of Mankind and the Imperium. This is the peak now. Nothing will ever top this achievement. Have a great day. See you in a bit. Have a good one, and bye-bye.